بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Continuing on in the final portion of this blessed book of the various different forms of dua and invocations, we're onto the dua for strengthening the memory, which is Allahumma ja'al nafsi mutma'inna tu'minu biliqa'iq wa taqna'u bi'ata'ik wa tarda biqada'ik, which translates as, O Allah, Allahumma, make my soul tranquil. Nafsi mutma'inna, make it mutma'in, tranquil. Make my soul tranquil, believing in its meeting you, satisfied or content with your provisions, that which you give, and content with your decree, that which you bestowed and that which you decree. This is to be recited 3 times in the morning and the evening. Now, it's interesting that many aspects of this book are applicable to every Muslim, but you'll see at certain times there are also certain gifts which actually help us along the way, particularly for a seeker, a person in the pursuit of sacred knowledge. So strengthening memory is a very important component, as we've seen with the rest of this book. So perhaps we can recite this particular dua with the intention also of helping us to memorize the various other du'as and invocations throughout the remainder of the book. So moving on now to the next dua, this is entering into a market. It's incredible the nature of the diversity in which the Prophet ﷺ gave us access and channels back to the Prophet ﷺ through. From 1 minute we're in the masjid, and then it's about the restroom, and then we're going into one's house, and now we're entering into the market, which in contemporary terms, the Arabs would say a souk, but it translates as a mall or a shopping center, any place where they sell stuff. This is a market. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu narrates that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever enters a marketplace and says this particular dua which we'll recite, Allah will write thousands upon thousands of good deeds in his favor, and he will erase thousands upon thousands. Some of them actually quantify this as 1,000,000, of his misdeeds, of his sins, and it will be raised thousands upon thousands, 1,000,000 degrees. It's narrated by Tirmidhi. So this is a well-authenticated hadith. Ibn Majah and Hakim consider it to have a sahih chain of narration. So it's a very, it's a beautiful hadith to kind of, encourage us to recite this dua. And how often, in our lives do we have to nip to the shop? Do we have to go to shopping center to buy some clothes, to buy food, whatever it may be? Let's be mindful of this particular dua. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, yuhyi wa yumit, wa huwa hayyun la yamut, biyadihi al-khayr, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. There is no God but Allah, without partners. Sovereignty is His, and to Him belongs all praise. He gives life and causes death, and He is living and never dies. All good is in His hand, and He has power over all things. Now, one of the reasons why the scholars say, you get such a huge reward, 1,000,000 degrees of ascension, 1,000,000 good deeds, and 1,000,000 bad deeds wiped away from the scrolls, is because the souk, the marketplace, where people are shopping, is characterized by a place where people forget Allah. People don't go there to worship Allah typically. And this is why in a hadith that the most dearest of places or spaces to God are its mosques. There's the most blessed part of a land, you could say. Any given era is its mosques, and the furthest places from God of any particular land, aswaquha, or its marketplaces. And it's not to say that they're inherently cursed or bad if a person's righteous, but the default, because it's a distraction, because it's basically where the dunya is sold. It's the marketplace for the dunya. So the nature of, you have these crazy, things like window shopping. We don't even need this now, unfortunately, through the internet, whatever. People can go, and just constantly buying, constantly, eating, constantly having things delivered. You don't even have to go outside of your house now. But we need to be mindful of all of these things. When you enter into that space, it has a certain frequency which brings about shayateen, and the shayateen veer towards. So we need to be mindful of this and recite this dua as a form of protection, a form of being mindful of where we're at, a form of consciousness following the Prophet ﷺ, and also to access these great rewards. Now, the final dua in this particular, and this brings us to the end of this particular section of this blessed book, is the dua for protection from disobedience to Allah. Incredible dua. Allahumma ya hayyu ya qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith wa min adhabika astajir aslihni sha'ni kulla wa la takilni ila nafsi wa la ila ahad min khalqika tarfat ayn. O Allah, O living, O sustainer, ya hayyu ya qayyum, by your mercy I appeal for assistance, and from your punishment I seek protection. Make good all of my affairs. Ameen. And do not entrust me to myself, nor any of your creation, for the blink of an eye. And it's narrated here to recite this 19 times with the Basmala. So you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, then you recite the dua. Then Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, then you recite the dua. This has a very particular potency, a very strong effect on cultivating the nafs. And to do this 19 times, if you can do it daily, it's good. If you can do it as a one-off, if you're just overwhelmed by, sometimes these things can just, drown a person, and we need ways out. We need opportunities to recalibrate and recenter ourselves back to Allah. This is a very powerful dua. Learn it, recite it, record it, listen to it, teach it to others. This is a really important thing for us to do, because ultimately, and it's interesting that this is a conclusion to this book, it's all about obedience to Allah. It's all about ta'ah. Taqwa in its most simple expression is doing that which Allah has called you to do, and abstaining or moving away from that which Allah has told you to abstain from. And through this come all of these blessings, all of these openings, guidance. It's very simple, but it's not unprofound. Sometimes we're looking for, we overly philosophize on things, and we think about, why are things going wrong in my life, or why I'm not attaining certain things in my life, certain kind of forms of guidance or light, and I'm kind of overwhelmed by shayateen. I'm overwhelmed by whisperings and waswasa and the shadows and the darker, things in existence in this universe. And it's as simple as just taking that step, moving, through the Prophet ﷺ, meaning by following his way back to Allah. That's the greatest way. Sometimes we busy ourselves with the shadows, and we forget that all you need to do is light a candle. And as the scholars often remind us, it's an incredibly beautiful, metaphor, that even if you're in a space which is filled with darkness, a single candle causes things to be illuminated. All of these du'as are expressions upon the vast spectrum of light that pinpoint the heart in a certain way, that help bring the nafs back into obedience in a certain way. And in engaging with them, constantly calling ourselves to be just that bit more sincere, a bit more present, a bit more observant, a bit more loving, that we don't do these du'as with disconnection, with severance, that we know that the Prophet ﷺ enunciated these blessed prayers, that you're mimicking the sacred words that flowed from his beautiful, blessed, lips, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So may Allah give us the ability to be people that think just that bit deeper, be a bit more conscious, be a bit more aware, to take the time, because this is worth it. How many of us know things that we wish we didn't have to know? We've filled our minds and our hearts with those things that are really ultimately a distraction, and we have this on offer. These access points, these channels, back to coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah allow us to follow him and to align to his way. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبُكُمْ اللَّهُ. Say, if you truly love Allah, there's a litmus test. It's not just a claim. If you really love Allah, follow me, align to the way of the Prophet. This book is just filled with ilm nafi', truly beneficial knowledge that transforms from the instant that you put it into practice. There's no philosophizing, there's no going off on a tangent or a trajectory here. It's pure, focused ilm nafi', transformative, beneficial knowledge. All we have to do is learn it and practice it. And the more we can do that with love, centered in consciousness, we'll start to see transformation in our lives and in our homes, in our situation, in our family, and all those around us. May Allah give us this. This is life-giving knowledge. قَدْ اسْتَجِيبُوا لِلَّهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ إِذَا دَعَاكُمْ لِمَا يُحْيِيكُمْ say, respond to the call of Allah and His Prophet ﷺ when they summon you to that which brings you back to life. This is that which brings our hearts and our souls and our minds and our bodies and our homes and our societies, the ummah, back to life. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be of those people. You know, it's narrated from the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the one that revives a sunnah of mine has brought me back to life. The one that implements and revives a sunnah of mine, indeed he has loved me. فَقَدْ أَحَبَّنِي. So may Allah allow us to reach that accolade of those that were tested to by the Prophet ﷺ. In following his sunnah, we become people that are loved by him and people that love him. And no doubt, if you're beloved to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, then you're beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no difference between the two. The Prophet ﷺ loves that which Allah loves, and he is our door, he is our way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah allow us to be like him, remember Allah in every moment. كَانَ يَذْكُرَ اللَّهَ فِي كُلِّ أَحْيَانِهِ. You would remember Allah in every instance. May Allah allow us to follow and embark upon that journey to be like him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah give us tawfiq. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Muhammad wa alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.